This episode of the Scarlet Faithful podcast is sponsored once again by Knights of the Raritan, the Rutgers NIL Collective. You can join their free newsletter by clicking on the link in the description of this episode and become a member today to help Rutgers student athletes with NIL. And so happy to have a special guest today, Chloe Timberg, fresh off her national title at the 2024 Outdoor Championships track and field. Chloe, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
First off, of course, congratulations. Tremendous performance about a week and a half ago at the point we're talking. Just wanted to ask to kind of take us through that day. Not only winning the national title, but setting a meet record, setting a Rutgers record with that 15 and 5.5 meters vault. What was the whole day like, the whole experience for you, your third trip to outdoor nationals and being able to take home the national title?
Yeah, no, it was just an incredible day, and I'll be the first to admit that in the past couple of years, I haven't performed how I wanted to at nationals. So I think that we kind of came in with that chip on my shoulder, and we wanted to do better than the previous 2 years. And we felt really confident that practices had been heading in the right direction, and everything was where it needed to be. I just kind of needed to perform the way that we both, my coach and I, knew that we could. So yeah, I just kind of tried to stay relaxed the whole day. I'm a really big proponent of, listening to music, just going for walks, trying to stay like as far away from the track as possible in the hours leading up to competition. And then, it was just kind of a matter of me making sure that I was talking to my competitors, right? Having a good time, really just kind of creating that environment that I knew that I was going to thrive in. And yeah, no, to jump 15.5.5, it was just an incredible feeling because that's a height that I thought I was going to hit within the next 3 years. Like I talked to a teammate earlier this year, and my goal for this year was 15 feet. And I said by the time I graduate, I want to go 15.4. So even then, it kind of just surpassed all my expectations that I had for myself. And I'm quickly starting to realize that maybe I'm underestimating myself, and I need to do a little bit better at kind of holding myself to that higher standard and really believing that the sky's the limit. But no, just having my teammates there and my coaches, it was fantastic to see them in the stands as I cleared that height. And it was a double PR day. So I PR'd on the first height, I think at 4:65. And I gave myself like 5 seconds where I was just kind of overcome with joy. And then I was like, all right, we need to lock back in and we need to go get that next bar. So yeah, no, it was such a special moment. And, I know that all my family was at home supporting me, watching me through the live stream, and they'll be out there for Olympic trials in person. So I'm just so excited to kind of continue with that momentum.
Well, and there were a lot of Rutgers fans paying attention, and social media was abuzz when you accomplished that feat. Just in terms of obviously the sport and your mental focus, you talked about you actually won the national title and kept going in terms of getting your PRs. So I've covered your whole career just in terms of when I used to write for sites and stuff as well. You were at nationals for indoors twice. You finished third in the winter. And then obviously your third appearance at nationals, your best appearance after the year before. I know you said you struggled, but I guess what is your mental focus in terms of being able to deliver that type of performance, but also even after you win the national title and keep that focus to keep pushing yourself just to do the very best you can individually on that specific day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest aspects in training that I've been focusing on is just kind of my mindset. And this year especially has been a year where I've kind of realized that how I feel as a person really ties into how I perform. So I think last year and kind of the beginning of this indoor season, I was having a really hard time kind of separating, like who I am as a person versus like my performance in athletics. So I think that every kind of like negative performance that I was having was kind of tying into my self-worth, and it was making practices really enjoyable. So this year especially, I kind of worked to turn that around, and going into this season and going into trials, I've really just been kind of trying to maintain that, like, hey, I love what I'm doing. I'm really happy to show up here every single day. And I think that that's kind of what's taking me to that next level this year.
And you have a long relationship with your coach, Coach Porambo. You mentioned when you won the national title that you both decided on some mid-season changes. I was wondering if that was from the technical side, if it was more what you're referring to in terms of your mindset. What adjustments did you make together, and how much of an influence has he been on you and your career and success?
Yeah, Coach Porambo, or I just call him Carl, but Carl has had a really, really big impact in my career. I've been blessed with great coaches since I was in gymnastics and now all the way up until college. But I was really happy when I transitioned over from high school to now have this point person that I worked really well with, I meshed really well with. And I think part of what I really like about his coaching style and why we get along is because we're very we collaborate a lot with each other. When we're at competitions, we do a really good job of just kind of trying to stay relaxed and really just being open to hearing what one another are thinking. So, I'll go up to him and I'll say, Coach, like I think my standards need to be at 75. And he'll either say, yep, go do it, buddy. Or, maybe pull him in 5 inches or 5 centimeters. So it's really that kind of collaboration piece that has taken us very far in that kind of coach athlete relationship. And then I think too, mid-season, we kind of started to work on some changes that were maybe a little bit risky to start mid-season. I have a really big issue with taking off very far under in my jump, and it kind of messes up the timing. And it's a really old habit. It's a habit that I've had since high school. So really kind of taking the time to step back and work on my run mechanics, which is extremely technical and tedious to work on. And then also just kind of playing around with new techniques, right? So we've been playing around with actually putting a towel down on the runway to kind of help me visualize where I need to take off at. And that's been helping a lot. And then our thought was just kind of, if we rep it out enough times with the towel, hopefully it translates into a competition setting. So really just kind of being open to playing around with new techniques has been huge for us.
That's and obviously it's yielded great successes. You mentioned previously the Olympic trials. You qualified in setting the meet record, Penn relays as well, and going over 15 in that meet. Also, I guess how hard has it been to kind of change your mindset now? You win the national title, and then boom, you're right into Olympic trials training, competing in less than 2 weeks away now. How, I guess, have you been able to change that focus, and how prepared do you feel about 10 days out going into that now at the same place where you won the national title, legendary Hayward Field in University of Oregon?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing for me is it's really important to not get too excited. Like I had my moment, it was great, it was fantastic. But now I'm right back to kind of going into competition mode, right? Because we always talk about how it can be anybody's day. I might have the day of my life at trials. Somebody might have a day that's, less than ideal for them. So it's kind of, it's anybody's opportunity to make the team. And it's really important to kind of just keep your head down and keep doing exactly what you've been doing and just preparing however you would normally prepare for a meet. Because at the end of the day, it still is pole vault and it's still just a regular competition. So, I know that like, there's a lot more surrounding it and people are like, oh my gosh, it's Olympic trials, it's this huge meet. But at the end of the day, it's just as it's still pole vault and it's still competition, just as if I was going to like the Armory in New York or even if we were having like a home meet. So still doing the exact same things. And I think too, I'm just really, it is a really big meet for me. So I've had a bit of trouble kind of like calming myself down and not getting too excited over that. But I think having my family there will kind of help me just enjoy the moment, and I'll be happy with whatever outcome. And then I think too, I had that one competition right after nationals, the Katie Moon Pole Vault Classic. So that was the first time that I was really competing with like a group of elite women. And it was a great environment. Everyone was so supportive, but I think that that was really good preparation for me to kind of be surrounded by these women that I've always looked up to. So that way, when I get on the runway with them in Eugene at Olympic trials, I don't feel so intimidated. And I'm also just kind of used to a little bit of a more high pressure situation.
So in terms of, it's such a sport that is humbling. I was looking back at your past results, and you won the Big Ten title your first 2 years in outdoor, and you had your best performance at Big Ten this past spring and finished second. So I guess how does knowing that, I guess how much focus are you able to kind of in a vacuum worry about what you need to do to deliver your best performance versus worrying about all the outside noise and your competitors and all things like that?
Yeah. So one thing that I really like about pole vault in general is that everyone is just very supportive, right? So when you go to a competition, although you are technically competing against them, you know, you'll notice that all the girls are cheering each other on and everyone's super friendly. So I think it's less so worrying about, you know, what my competitors are doing. And really just worrying about like me in the bar, right? Because at the end of the day, you are competing against yourself and you're competing against all your previous personal bests or, you know, your season bests. And so it's really just a matter of staying focused on what you can do as an athlete versus, you know, oh, so-and-so did this yesterday and so looks like she's having a great warm-ups, because that's when you really start to get in your head. And you really just need to be happy for those other girls because, you know, you kind of grown up with them in a sense. You know, some of those girls I've been competing with for over 5-6 years now, like even in high school they were around. So just again kind of having that very very friendly mindset and just making sure that you are being as supportive as you can be. But yeah, no, I it's just it's a lot to take in all at once, and I'm very excited, but no, just kind of focusing on yourself.
And just a couple more for you. You mentioned you did gymnastics earlier when you were younger. I guess how did you ultimately get into pole vault, and did you ever expect to be in the position you are in terms of competing at such a high level?
Yeah, so I started gymnastics when I was about 5 years old, and I did it all the way up until about eighth grade. And I noticed that I was kind of starting to fall out of love with the sport. You know, I'd go to practice, and I just wasn't quite as motivated to like rep out the skills that I was working on. And I found that I was just kind of like sitting off to the side a lot. And so I slowly kind of started to feel that passion fade away. And I happened to be at my brother's marching band preview for the year. And at the same time, they were actually hosting like a little pole vault clinic over the summer at my high school. And I looked over and I was like, Mom, look at those big sticks. Like these kids are flying into the air. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And so we went down and we kind of talked to the coach a little bit. It was towards the end of the season, so they were wrapping up for the year. And next year I came out and I tried it. And the first day I was really not the best at it. I had like no run mechanics and I was super awkward holding a pole and everything felt uncomfortable. But I stuck with it, and I had two fantastic coaches that kind of held my hand through the beginning stages. And yeah, and then when I got to ninth grade, you know, I started doing it for my high school, but I was also kind of doing diving at the time. And I don't know why, but I was really convinced that diving was going to be my sport in college. So I was putting a lot of time into it. But then I started to see some improvement in pole vault, and I kind of realized, no, I think this is where I'm meant to be. And yeah, I started going to a pole vault club, and I was surrounded by a lot of other like-minded athletes. And you know, my high school coach and club coach kind of guided me through the college recruiting process. And quite honestly, I didn't think I was ever going to be a 15-foot jumper. I was a pretty consistent 13-foot jumper in high school, and I popped like 1:14.2 bar for the state record. And you know, there was some doubt in my mind. I said to myself at one point, you know, like, what if this is as high as I jump and the school just recruited me and this is as high as I'm going to go? So I was definitely kind of plagued by self-doubt there. And even well into freshman season, right, I was still kind of doubting that because I wasn't really jumping as high as I wanted to. I was jumping like mid 13 still. And then finally, you know, I got another 14-foot bar, and I think that that's kind of what got the ball rolling. And since then, you know, every year I've been getting more and more consistent. And if you look at my average height, you know, it's been steadily going up. So it's really cool to see how I've developed in that sense as an athlete and how far I've come since there. But I don't think that high school me, when she was starting pole vault, would have thought that she was going to be the 15.5 jumper that I am today.
That's amazing. I love that story. And just in terms of your time at Rutgers, seeing the program grow under Coach Bobby Farrell, and obviously your impact with the program, having more and more success on a national stage, how fun has that been to be a part of, and how important is that? And how much does that mean to you and the other student athletes that have been able to really help move things forward the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, it's really a great source of pride. And I think especially coming in freshman year, the coaches really had high hopes for the team, and you could see that they really believed in what they were building. And so to kind of watch that manifest now as we're coming into, you know, sophomore, junior year, and I'm sure it will continue in my senior year and well beyond that as well. But just kind of watching how we've been growing as a program, it's been amazing to be a part of, and I'm really kind of excited to see what other athletes we inspire. Because it's not just me. There's a lot of other athletes this year that have been super successful, and they've just been putting out some crazy marks. And so I'm really excited to see how we inspire next recruiting class and the other recruiting classes after them, and just kind of showing them that, like the black art, it really has some power, and we're a force to be reckoned with. So I'm really excited to continue to work with the coaches and, my future teammates that are coming on this year and the year after. And I hope that they can also kind of use my story as a source of inspiration, and the other athletes on the team as well.
Last one for you, just in terms of, you have Olympic trials coming up at the end of June. You were the first female national titleist for track in program history. What are your plans past Olympic trials heading into next year? We'll be back for your senior year, and how are you looking to continue to challenge yourself, continue to raise the bar for yourself, both literally and figuratively?
Yeah, definitely. So I think after Olympic trials, I'm definitely going to be taking some rest. First and foremost, definitely some rest, giving my body that time, the time that it needs to just kind of recuperate and, just relax a little bit. And then I think next year I'm actually planning on redshirting. So my goal was to take a 5th year to start a master's program and also develop myself a little bit more athletically before competing my final season. So next year I'll be redshirting both indoor and outdoor, or at least right now that's the tentative plan. And then I'll come back for my 5th year the year after and start that master's and finish up my last year of eligibility. Next year is really just going to be a matter of kind of taking more time to make some uncomfortable changes because I'm redshirting. I'm not really going to have a set schedule, and that's nice because it does offer you a lot of flexibility to go and train and make changes that you want to. And especially coming off an Olympic year like this, where your postseason goes really, really long, it would just give me the opportunity to take a little bit more rest and make sure that, I'm being smart in the long run, as opposed to just jumping, and kind of running that risk of just jumping my body into the ground. So yeah, definitely trying to be smart with that. But I guess some goals of mine for next year is to make it to USA's indoor, and then they also have outdoor USA's. So just kind of those two big meets. That would be a fantastic opportunity to get to go to. And then aside from that, just kind of picking up competitions here and there and trying to make those technical changes that I want to make to hopefully reach 16 feet.
Well, that's amazing news, and many Rutgers fans are following your journey. We'll be rooting for you at the end of this month at Olympic trials. Hopefully you're busy in July as well, overseas at the Olympics. But regardless, it's been an amazing journey, and people are so proud of you. Congratulations on your national title. We look forward to following the rest of your career, both at Rutgers and beyond. And best of luck in a week and a half at Olympic trials. Thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.